So I have a new figure from s.h.monsterarts by Bandai, and this is, I call it Burning Godzilla, but I guess they're just calling it Godzilla. This was when he was in the midst of a meltdown. It's from Godzilla versus Destoroyah from 1995. And I wasn't going to get this figure, but I ended up, I don't know, for some reason I thought I had it. I thought I had a 1995 figure, but since I didn't have a burning Godzilla figure, I was like, oh, I guess I don't have it. You could see I have it all set up with his atomic breath, and for whatever reason, the stand here is also burning. But at that point, when he was fighting Destoroyah at the very end, the whole place was on fire. And also, this really understates what his atomic breath looked like at that point, because I mean, I guess this could be just earlier in the film, but his atomic breath was off the charts. Once he was reaching kind of his death throes, his level of power kind of exploded. So poor Destoroyah managed to come along Godzilla right as Godzilla was at the peak of his power. And Godzilla actually, although he did a tremendous amount of damage to Destoroyah, wasn't the one who killed him. In the end, it was the humans using their frost weapons. So the atomic breath here. So we have the stand and pegs into here, pegs into here. So I never really show these with the atomic breath. I mean, this is like, I don't know, 14, 16 inches from here to the end of his tail. So it takes up a lot of room, and I have so many figures that I just don't have the room to sit there and go all out. This figure actually, it's the one Godzilla figure where I kind of feel like they maybe should have gone with light up features, but there are no light up features in here. It's, the Heisei era. I kind of like the Heisei era because there is the most consistency in the design of Godzilla. A lot of the various Godzilla figures from the Heisei era by Bandai, they look almost exactly the same. This is not the case in the other, like the Millennium era or the Showa era, where he looked quite a bit different. They had a very consistent story arc almost from the beginning. I think Godzilla 1985 was kind of a different kind of film. So it looks great. I mean, it's got the normal articulation from one of the Bandai figures. In fact, I almost wonder. I have a lot of my figures boxed up for now, but I have to wonder if this is almost exactly from, say, Godzilla versus Space Godzilla, or some of the other ones, because the costumes looked so similar. But obviously, this one has all sorts, and I think it's translucent because it's not just like painted on there. Some of this looks like it's painted on, but here it looks like it's see-through. It really has a pretty cool effect with all the fiery innards when he was in the midst of melting down. So I'll put him off to the side here, and then we will also add Destoroyah. And you can kind of see the size. I think that, after looking at the film, I think that's a pretty good interpretation of the size difference. I don't know, maybe Destoroyah was even larger, but I don't know. Maybe this is about what it was in the film. So having the two of them together, pretty neat. I could create quite a display with the two of them if I also included the atomic breath, but they make a pretty neat duo. The Bandai is also releasing, I call him Baby Godzilla, but at that point he's quite a bit grown up, versus the less mature form of Destoroyah. And I think I'm going to skip it. I can't. I need to be much more selective in my figure buying, so I think I'm going to skip out on that. But if you own any Godzilla s.h.monsterarts figures, you pretty much know what you're going to get. They're very, very similar in their... This is kind of weird. Well, okay, I guess I can... It's very stiff right in here. The thing with these. So I think there's no joints at the tip of the tail. With these, like the tail, you see joint after joint after joint, and you think you're going to see something really impressive, and then it's not nearly as impressive as you would imagine. But I've never been super impressed with the articulation on the S.H. Monster Arts figures, and I don't own any Godzilla figures from any other company. I went all in on the Monster Arts. I know a lot of people have been talking about the Haya figures, which are slightly less expensive. I think they're about the same. I want to say Godzilla is about 6.5, 7, something like that. And I think the Haya figures are maybe slightly larger, but I think they're slightly cheaper. So, but I am not planning on getting into a new line. This is it. I am done. I'm a fan of Godzilla. I grew up with Godzilla. When I was a child, the only era was the Showa era. And so I have a lot of fond memories of that era. Even Son of Godzilla film, which I know people hate, but I have fond memories of that film. For some reason, they showed that film on TV a lot. But I think it's a nice figure. I think it looks great. It has weight to it. I would be curious. I don't really want to get into buying the Haya figures, but I'd love to handle one and just kind of see the level of detail, compare the level of detail. I think they're trying to create a competitor to S.H. Monster Arts, and so they might be upping their level of articulation and their level of detail to try and compete. But I've never held one, so I can't really say how they compare. I think that the S.H. Monster Arts figures could be better with some different engineering. It just, like the shoulders here, some of it's not fantastic. I would say that the Monster Arts figures, S.H. Monster Arts for Godzilla, are more about the detailing and screen accuracy than brilliant articulation. Even though I know Bandai is capable of doing some fantastic articulation. I've seen it on other figures. But I think it's very nice. And if I find some room, I could do a neat little display of the two of them fighting. And I would say that the Destoroyah is my new favorite of the Godzilla villain. I have Mechagyros. I believe it's Mechagyros. Mechagyros is also coming out, and I pre-ordered that one. So I think that's the only one I have on pre-order at this point. But a nice pair here. Very look like they're stepped right out of the movie.